So I believe there we go. Okay. Hold on here. Okay, so I think we are streaming now. Let me go ahead here and drag this off to the side. We are streaming and it looks like my voice is coming through. Let's get a little music going. Let's let's do some Lord of the Rings music. Okay, I like this. Cool. Let me go ahead and get my actual I'm going to post this over on the F# Discord here. Another safe stack F# live. Okay, so and let me go ahead, I'm going to share that with one other person. Send this out to a couple people. If you're watching this like as a recording, you might want to skip ahead a little bit. Okay, so we are going to, I'm going to switch the music to some saxophone jazz. That sounds good. Heck yeah. And let me just double check this here. Turn down the audio just a little bit. It's just a nice little background. Okay, so we are continuing to develop our safe stack application for our game Fogent Roleplay. So just as kind of a refresher, if I go ahead and open this up, so we are essentially trying to, oops, that's not going to work. Oh, it actually will. So we're trying to make an automated character sheet for our game where essentially the entire character sheet here will be automated. So if somebody increases like a point in strength or something, that I don't have to go ahead and recalculate all these numbers by themselves, that everything just automatically happens. And we're also learning safe stack at the same time, which is really fun. So we'll get into it. So we got our little Nix environment here. We're going to go ahead and do code dot. So last we left off, we had just laid some really basic structure for the application. Oh, it's funny, people are messaging me right now. Oh man, they want to play video games. Lol. I just started live streaming my coding. Oh man, my friends want me to come play games. How long will you be on? Okay, well here. We're gonna see if he wants that. We'll see if he's probably gonna be on for a bit. So I had a little bit of realization. So if you were, and I'll go ahead and revert this back because I was messing around with some stuff. So last time we built up, we got our initial project. We had our initial project empty, just a simple safe stack version 5 application. And I'm also going to apologize if I'm a little bit under the weather here and I sound sick and I think poorly today. I am still very sick, but I wanted to go ahead and keep grinding here. So what we're going to go ahead and do is get into it. So one thing I realized, so we went ahead and over in our client, we went ahead and made up these different components of our UI, right? What I had realized, and we were doing things like establishing, -2 to 5, which is just the stat level that you can have in an attribute. So an attribute can go from level -2 to level 5. And one thing I did realize when we were getting up to the core skill, so we were building up to here at core skill, and I realized that our type for core skill was probably a little bit off. And what's cool is, I actually have in the past developed. The first time I went and did the safe stack, I got pretty far, but I actually ended up pausing my development on safe stack because I ended up realizing that essentially the rules weren't done yet, and because the rules weren't done yet, I needed to catch up. I needed to get the rules finalized and then code it and turn it into a automated character sheet. So because of that, if I could go over here. But basically, the old way that I used to pass down, so a core skill is something on your character sheet. It's something like, kind of like in D&D, like you have like athletics and stuff. Same thing here. They're just skills that fall under certain attributes, and in order to calculate them, you need information. So you need to know, your level. So which is nice because you're self-referential there. If you think about it as a type level when you're representing a skill, the type of a skill is going to basically be it's going to be the name of the skill, the level of the skill, and the dice pool associated with the skill. Now that dice pool, though, in order to calculate it, you end up having to have additional information, like what if your character has a magical item on that boosts a certain skill, like maybe you have a ring that improves your athletics or something like that. And so if you do have something like that, you need to be able to pass that information across the state basically and figure out, hey, how am I going to represent this item, and how am I going to pass that item's effect where it modifies this character's athletics or whatever other core skill. And remember, it could be a core skill, it could be one of their vocational skills, it might be a bunch of things, and we need to figure out how to pass that across our state. And in my old way, when I originally did my character sheet, the first time I wrote it, and when I ended up stopping because I realized I didn't do all the rules and I hadn't quite figured everything out yet, so I needed to go back and finish the extra core rules, what I ended up realizing here was, hey, guess what? Oh, hey, Oren. Howdy, howdy, sir. So what I ended up realizing was basically the way I did it in my old sheet, where twitching as well. I'm not twitching today. I'm still feeling sick, and I just wanted to go ahead and do it. I'll figure out how to do Twitch as well at a different point. Don't worry. It's not like anybody's gonna watch me anyways. But today I'm still sick. Did you see the eclipse, Orn? Count Orn? We were able to look outside. Yeah, it wasn't that good here. We got like 90% coverage, so it got dark, but not crazy. So back over here. Basically, net, all that what I was saying was that I realized yesterday, actually when I was talking with you, Oren, at my house, basically, yeah, it was pretty cool. But basically that I realized, hey, you know what? We're not properly representing this core skill type. And the whole reason originally that I didn't include, so if we go to the core skill type that we had made, so we go back over here to our Fogent Roleplay lib, and we scroll down. So here, right, and what I love is like visually you can see it, where a core skill should have a name, a level, and a dice pool associated with it. But here, my core skill only has a skill which has, so I ended up changing it. I fixed it actually at some point here. Let me save here. Did I revert everything? Oh, I didn't. Hold on. We're going to compare here. Because I want to revert back. I was messing around with this the other night. I want this to be... We're going to revert to the file contents here. I want it to be... Yes, I want it to be before I ended up changing anything. So, if we look here, I think a core skill should have a name, a level, and a dice pool associated with it. And this dice pool could be influenced by things that, like, it could be influenced by what items your character is wearing. It could be influenced by if your character is injured or not. It could be influenced by a bunch of different things. And so, essentially, we're going to go ahead, represent the core skill here by the way we kind of, by the way what makes logically for that type. And then we're going to leverage something within SafeStack. We're going to leverage messages and their types to pass that information down to where it is needed. And we're not going to violate, there's kind of a rule I like to do for myself where whenever you're calling an update function, your update really should only ever be giving messages and models. And if you want to pass data down, like let's say I need to figure out a way to pass data down into my application or into one of my components further down, then you can do so by just making types here for your messages, and that's how you should pass information around. That way you can explicitly say, hey, here's the information I need to pass with my message. It says go do this, and it brings along the information that it needs to update the state. So let's go ahead and try to do this. So first, let's start over here in the actual library, right, in the shared repository here, the common code between the client and the server. And so we're going to look here. So core skill here. So core skill has a governing attribute, and it'll have a skill. And a skill is something that you're good, Oren. You're totally good. Yeah. You just throw this in the background and you don't have to worry about it. I'm just going to be grinding away myself. But what we're going to do here is under skill here, because a core skill has a skill in it and a governing attribute. And the reason why we split it up like this is because there are things like vocational skills that are technically different than a core skill that can have multiple governing attributes, whereas a core skill can only have one governing attribute. So we do need to differentiate them out, but we should keep what's common between all skills under skill, and then we can layer up and add more stuff to our types with like core skill and stuff, or vocational skill types. So we're going to go to skill here. So right now our skill only has the name and the level. I want the skill to also have a dice pool associated with it. So we're going to say dice pool. And we don't have the type brought in, so we need to open up the dice pool module here so we can have that type. And so now skill has the correct things. We have the name, the level, and the dice pool. So now our core skill makes a lot more sense. What I'm going to go ahead and do now is go ahead and pass this information. So I made my type. I'm pretty happy with my type here. I want to go back. Now that I've defined my type, we go to the UI side. So over in the UI side here. Actually, one question for you, Oren. Is the music too loud for, compared to my voice? We are going to go over here. And as for the core skill here, we'll do... No, it sounds good? Okay. I was getting some feedback from some people that the old recording, or I can't even listen to it, like the stream was too loud before, so just wanted to check. Okay. Good. So we're going to say dice pool over here, and we're going to set it equal here. We're already bringing over the dice pool module from our core library there, and in it there should be a thing called base dice. So we're just going to set that as our base dice pool. So essentially we've set it so that when the core skill loads up, it's going to load up with no name. It's going to have a level, whatever the default level for -1 to 5 int is, which should be 0. And then the dice pool will just be base 3d6 because that's the way it works in Fogent. And then the governing attribute will just be it won't have one at this point. Okay, so then what we need to do is say, okay, what are the different actions on our UI that the user can then perform? So it's pretty much the same as before, but we do need to make an additional action to allow things higher up in the character sheet to affect us. So there's really two kind of actions we're going to need. We're going to need this one action, and actually we can still use this. So the action here of if the user goes ahead and changes the if they change the -1 to 5, so they change that information there, we need to be able to recalculate what our dice pool is. Now, as I'm thinking through this, the one flaw I'm seeing here, if we're reliant off of other information higher up the chain to be passed down to us in order to calculate or recalculate this part, then this message might be a little bit more complex. Let me think here. Because this is going to get called when the user interacts with... So actually, maybe I take my idea back. So here's what I'm thinking. In order to recalculate my dice pool, I'm going to need things that are from higher up in the actual application. And the problem right here is that if right now, because there's going to be two messages, there's going to be like a self update and then an update whenever something higher up changes. In the case of the self update, I don't have access right now to the information that is higher up. Now, how can I get that? So one way I could get it, I could pass it down as inputs to update. I really don't like that. There's got to be a better way to do it. And again, like, the user is going, and I already have a way solved to do this. The old way I did this is that I didn't have on my skill here the dice pool associated with it. Because it was dependent on things higher up, I handled it kind of separately or adjacently to my skill stuff, and I'd calculate those dice pools and then pass down those dice pools to the core skills. So I'm wondering if that's still a better idea now. Because the only other way I can think of, like, I can definitely solve the case where I may have thought of one way to do this, actually. So I think one way you could do this now I don't remember if I'm breaking a kind of rule in Elmish, But one way to fix this actually is to just go ahead whenever you, yeah, that might work. That might be the, we're going to check the Elmish book first to make sure we're not violating the kind of MVU rule. But the idea could be when the user updates the level, so this is like the local update, it goes ahead and it could dispatch a command or a message to run and basically go up the chain and tell somebody higher up to them, say, hey, I need to refresh what's below me. I need you to find these things that I don't know about and call whatever the larger update function is. So actually that could work. That actually could work. We're going to make sure we aren't breaking any rules. So a really great tool if you're doing MVU stuff like this that I would highly recommend is the Elmish book. This is a wonderful resource for learning about MVU. I've learned so much from this. So what we're going to do here, so we have commands. It could, a command in Elmish is a function that can trigger events in the dispatch loop. Being able to trigger events means that the command has control over the dispatch function. Before we dive into the examples of implementations, let us look up the signature in the Elmish thing. I don't think we even need commands for this. I don't think we need commands, guys. There's actually one place, I want to find it. There's one place that talks about using update and how you should and shouldn't use it. I might be missing context, but if you just need to make the parent react to the child in it, I might be missing context, but if you just need to make parent react to a child, it means the parent update should run. So you might be missing modules in the parent. I'm not, that, honestly, this is kind of what we're trying to figure out. So I don't understand what I might be missing context, but if you just need to make the parent react to a child, I'm assuming, to a child, it means the parent update should run. Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking, like, I think I can literally just run the parent update, couldn't I? But the only thing is, like, so I need to run from the child. I need to, in the child, yes, so I think what I can do, if I'm not mistaken, I might be able to just run, yeah, like, it might be as simple as up above having, and kind of for example over here, we'll look at the old code that I have here, but I think that's kind of what I'm trying to figure out, Oren, and I think that is kind of what needs to be done. I think that's exactly what needs to be done. Yeah, so basically, the parent update should contain the child update. Yeah, it will, yeah, the parent will indeed be able to run the child update. I just haven't done it this way ever, but I think actually all you need to do, so this is the old, like, way that I was programming everything, and it's still actually pretty darn good, but essentially what I need to do is run the, I need to, but it's because, you know, the end, after I run the update function, my update function should end up returning, see, maybe that's it, maybe I just dispatch that. it is a logic that needs to live in the parent, in my opinion. No, and that's what it is. But the child needs to be able. So are you thinking that? Okay, so that right there, it is logic that should live in the parent. So that's what I kind of did in the my old implementation here, where if you look up here at, if we go to what a character is. Oh, here, I'll just go over to my library. But if you look at what a character is, I actually separated out the in character. I have the core skill dice pool list and the core skill list, and that way, because I basically broke out the I essentially broke out the that's what I did. I moved that logic into a higher place. But I think it's even simpler to where if you can make it so that when the child updates, yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe you're right. Just have it so that when the parent sees that the child runs its update and it received that message, then I can just call another one. Yeah, that's it, I think, actually. Because I think I can... Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So all I need to do is make it so that when the parent sees, hey, the user went ahead and updated this item level, then the parent tells the child, of course, hey, update that, and then it gets back that new core skill that hasn't updated its dice pool yet, and then the parent says, hey, I know I just ran that, now I also need to run this function here that's going to update the dice pool on that. I think you're right. I think that's exactly right. So then, what we can do, so actually the only two things we need to do then, we're going to just implement, this is totally fine then, this update here. We only need one other message here that defines, it's a message that when it's run, it basically will update the dice pool. So let's fix this one message we have here. But yeah, make sure it is typed before. Make sure it is types before even the updates if you can. More logic and types is better. Well, what is that first sentence? Make sure it is types before it is. You mean typed? Make sure it is typed before even the updates, if you can. Are you saying? Oh, make sure it is in. Make sure it is in the types before even the update, if you can. What do you mean? Make sure it's already in the types. While he's responding there, we're gonna write this here. So dice pool will just be equal to dice pool. The logic. You might even be able to represent everything in the type level. I'm not really sure what you're talking about there. If you're talking about like how I can use types to define the data that needs to be given to this message to run this calculation, then yeah, we're gonna do that. Don't worry. So let's see here. Are we satisfied with what we have right now? So right now we are indeed. If somebody changes the neg1 to 5 message, then we can go ahead and update that. So that's all good. Now we can do this. We can do. Now we need this function that's going to be called what? Calculate. It's going to be called calculate dice pool. And then calculate dice pool is going to take in a message, and this message is going to carry along with it all of the information we need in order to run this calculation. So we should actually probably come up with the calculation first, and then once we know what we need to calculate there, then we can represent. Actually, no, we can do this simpler. If I go up to here, let's figure out the information we need. So we're calling this calculate dice pool. Of, and then we need a type here. Calculate dice pool data. So what does calculate? What do I need to calculate a dice pool? So the first thing that comes to mind is we'll need the base dice. And actually what's really cool here, I won't pull up the actual rule book, but in your head, what you need to, in order to calculate a dice pool, first you need the base dice, okay? You're also going to need, and base dice are going to be a dice pool. We're actually going to make this an option here. We'll talk about in a minute here why we're going to make this an option. So in order to calculate a dice pool message, you need the base dice. So those are generally be the base 3 dice. So 3d6 is the common one, and then depending if you have like items that make you better at a certain thing, or you're just naturally better at something, you can modify those base dice and use higher tier dice. So then the next thing we're going to need is the skill level. Now, we actually already will have access to skill level down in here, so that's totally good. Because we literally are at a core skill, and we'll be able to open up skill here and understand what our level is. Then the next thing we're going to need is a bunch of dice pool modifications. And so we're going to have to go define that. So what a dice pool modification is, so if a dice pool, if we look over here, so a dice pool is, it's a bunch of, it's a dice pool. It can have D4s to D20s, and they can go from 0 to 1, and you just have some amount of dice. But what a dice pool modification is, it is a addition or subtraction of dice. So why, and you can kind of, if we conceptualize here, why we need to separate those. You couldn't subtract, if I said, hey, I want to remove, you can add dice pools, but you can't make a negative dice pool, right? You can't make dice that, like negative D4 or negative D6. You can't have negative dice, like, you can't have less than nothing, right? So what we can do is define a separate type here. And actually, we're just going to grab our old one over here. Make this much easier. So we can go over here, and underneath, I believe I had it in my old dice code here. We can grab this. So a dice pool penalty, a dice pool mod, perfect. So we can go back over here. So we have our dice pool defined here. We're also going to define another module. And I'm going to be better about breaking stuff up this time. So dice pool mod. So a dice pool mod is a dice pool modification. And that is what we're going to define in here. And we're going to say open dice pool. Okay. Excuse me. So, what is a dice pool mod? So a dice pool mod is it either is adding dice or it is removing dice. And if it's removing dice, it is called a dice pool penalty. And the way a dice pool penalty works is, like let's say I have 3d4, 3d6. Whenever, and let's say I have a dice pool penalty for that of -2 dice. You always remove the lower tier dice first. So if I had 3d4, and so if I had, and actually I can just show it like here. If we just do dice roller. So if I have 3d4 and a 3d6, and I need to remove 2 dice from this dice pool, then I would remove d4s first. And if I needed to keep removing dice, then I'd remove the last d4, and then I'd go into the d6s, and so on and so forth. So if you had like a d4, a d6, and a d20, you would remove the lowest face dice first before you remove the highest face dice, if that makes sense. Okay, so nice. Oops, clicked over the wrong thing. Oops, I keep clicking the wrong one. Okay, so we have our dice pool mod module now, which is awesome. We can use this and we can go over to our core skill here. Now the question is, do we want to explicitly list out each of the different dice pool modifications that could occur and that could affect our calculation down here? Or, and that actually might be really handy, that could be very handy, we could also do it to where here we just have a dice pool mod, and we simply just take in a list of dice pool mods. And so this could be, you know, if your character has an injury and they also are over encumbered and they have a curse item that's, you know, all of these are like minusing dice, minusing dice, minusing dice. Then you could represent this as a list and then just deal with that all like as one big list. I think technically encapsulating the logic in here will be the correct way to do this. And actually, rather than rather than doing this as one big pool, we are going to go ahead and explicitly kind of define out the different things that can affect this skill. I think that's actually better to do for right now. If this turns out to be too verbose, then I'll fix it. But I actually, in my mind, there's not infinite cases of ways that you can affect these core skill dice pools. So by explicitly listing it out, we're actually going to be able to see, okay, what things explicitly are we going to need to grab from other places on the character sheet. So the first thing we'll say here is we'll say weight, Now I'm doubting myself. Do I want to just do it as a big pool? I like the idea of doing it as a split type more, if I'm being honest. If you don't do it that way, then somebody could throw anything in there. So we're gonna do it the right way. Okay. So we're gonna say an injury. So what do we need? We need an injury dice penalty, and this is going to be a dice. We're gonna have to bring our type in here. This is good though. This is definitely the right track. It's better to actually explicitly say out, hey, here's what we're gonna do. Do it in the type, and then have this like telling us what we need. So injury dice penalty is going to be a dice penalty, and we'll make it a dice pool penalty to start with, because I can convert that into a dice pool modification really easily. So we need an injury. We're going to take in injury dice penalty. We're going, and actually, this should also be an option, actually. Actually, no. No, because a valid thing for your character is you have a no penalty, like the penalty is 0. That is a valid state for the penalty. That can represent the none case. But if it was only like if a dice pool penalty couldn't be 0, then we would want to do it that way. So we have our injury dice penalty. We also could have item effect, dice modification, dice pool mod. This could be a dice pool mod. So this would be like if we have a piece of magic armor that is giving us like +1 to our athletics. That could be something. What else could we have? We could also have, so we have an injury. We could do a weight class. No, I need to do this. Regardless, this type is going to be handy. So we're going to say weight class, dice penalty. What else? Right now, that's all I can think about, so we're going to run with it. Yes. I think that seems right in my head right now. So what's cool is now that we have this type here, this is the type of the calculate dice pool message. So this message is going to bring down from the top this information. And actually the only person, this message will not be hooked up to the UI. This message will only be called by the parent. And it's kind of like what we talked about, what you were pointing out, Oren, where it's like, yeah, the parent should be responsible for calling this. And that's exactly the right idea. Okay, so then we can go down to here. Why is this angry? Oh, because I have this here. So we're taking in a message here, and we need to run a function here that will take in and basically digest this this code here. So it needs to be able to digest this stuff here. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go back to our old project here. Did I have logic already set up for let's see, modify dice pool. Modify dice pool by dice pool mod list. This is exactly what I need. And actually, I might just go ahead here and extract out some of this stuff here because we're going to need it. So I want why the message is and type of this and not or type. Oh, why is this message and type and not or type? Ah! I think I have your answer, sir. I think you're missing a little context. So are you asking why this message here isn't an or type? If that is what you're asking, well, think about it here. Message here, the dice pool message is and type versus or type. Why is the message and type? Because it needs all. Oh, because it needs all of these. So you can think about it. Whenever like we would calculate your dice pools for that like let's say we're calculating athletics for you or something. In order for you to calculate that, you're gonna need to know, hey, is my injury 0 right now? Okay, cool, it's 0. So what's my weight right now? You need all of this information. You need to know all of the things that could affect you in order to calculate. So if you don't know all of the things that could affect you and you know the current state of all of those, then how can you calculate that current dice pool, right? Does that make sense? Because you could imagine, right, that does that make sense? In order to run the calculation, you need to have all the information and you need to have all the variables that actually could impact you. I think, hopefully I answered your question. If not, say something and I'll try to do better. Yeah, you're good. Don't worry. So what we're gonna do then is we're gonna grab some handy dandy stuff. So first thing we're gonna do here, we're gonna try to grab all of anything that refers to creating dice pool mods. We're gonna move that over to the dice mod section, and then we're gonna move everything else to the dice pool section. So let's see, create D6 dice pool mod. That one's nice. Dice to string. That is actually one that would go into dice pool. So we can do this one. Can go over here. So we're just dragging some stuff over, just some handy dandy function, and I'll explain each of these as we bring them over. So the first thing we're going to add over to dice pool mod is just a simple little function that will create dice pool modifications with d6s. So we just give it a number and it creates us a dice pool mod using that stuff. And actually, I can clean this up here. I can make this function nicer. We can call, I believe, because we have access to the dice pool and because we're doing immutable stuff. Watch this. This is cool. So so right now, this is a function that takes in a number and it creates a dice pool here, and then it wraps it with add dice pool to be of type dice pool modification. So what we can do here instead of writing all these zeros here, which is kind of redundant, I can instead do base dice, or no, empty, because I've already defined up here the empty dice pool here. So I don't need to define those zeros every time, right? That's kind of stupid. So I can just reference that above because I'm importing it here. You can see empty dice pool with, and then I can say, I think I can just say d6 equal to num dice. And now, look, we just saved a bunch of lines of code, and it's less verbose, and it relies on logic that we already defined. So that way, if something went wrong, we'd go to one place. So we can at least do that. That's a nice little fix right there. We can also look back over here. Wrong one. We have this dice to dice string function. I only need that for dice pool stuff. I think I already have that there. We have all this stuff. Combine dice pools. I don't think I've moved this over yet. Let's go over to dice pool here. We're just going to move on everything over. And this one simply goes ahead and you give it a list of dice pools and it can smush them all together. So it knows how to add dice pools. Remove dice. So this is actually a really important function. So this function right here, remove dice, he's the guy that understands, hey, here's how I remove dice. And what it does, so it goes ahead, it takes however many dice you have, because and actually, you know what, a way to make this even better, this function here? So right now, I am returning, so remove dice here, he is taking in some amount of dice, and he is then taking in the amount of dice that you'd like to remove that by. But we're returning type unit, so the result, the first thing in our tuple we're returning here is going to be the remainder of dice left. And then the second is going to be if, for instance, we were trying to remove 5 dice, so we have a dice pool of 5, but we want to remove 6 dice. So our negative number, the amount of dice we'd like to remove, is greater than the amount of dice that we have. We are returning the remainder essentially. So what we're actually going to do here, first thing we're going to do here, instead of saying unit here, we're actually going to say dice pool penalty, because that's technically actually what we're returning. And dice pool penalty here should have the type of it needs to be capitalized. So dice pool penalty, that's actually what's being returned here. And so then instead of saying unit here, we can just say, whoops. This is a bit of this is actually changing nothing under the hood, but it's defining more what it's doing. But this function is really important because this says, hey, here's how I remove dice from a dice pool, which is critical because this is actually like the whole way we remove. So like essentially, and we'll see it down here. So let me just go ahead and cut to the chase. Remove dice. Remove dice from dice pool. Modify dice pool. So these two can go over to. And I apologize that I can't just, I'm sure this actually seems a little bit complicated here because I'm just copying stuff over. Right now I'm essentially just going over my old stuff and dragging over the stuff that I need. And we're going to talk about each of these functions when we paste it over here so you guys get some, a reference to what's going on with each of these. So we already talked about this remove dice function, what that guy's doing. And then this function here, remove dice from dice pool. He takes in a dice pool and a num dice to remove. Actually, my naming was so bad when I did this. This should just be dice pool penalty, because that's literally the name of the type, and that's exactly what it's doing. Right, because the dice pool penalty doesn't exist over here. So actually, this does need to be over in the modify section. So then remove dice can also go over there. Okay, cool. Which makes sense, because both of these are modifying dice pools, so they should be in the dice pool modification section. Just moving stuff over. And, you know, we can actually make this is actually really unclean right here, looking at this. You see how I'm declaring all these, Oren, you'll get a kick out of this. What am I doing wrong here, Oren? I know, because you taught me this. What am I doing wrong here? Got all these variables. What am I doing wrong? I'm just gonna go ahead and solve it. I'm assuming you're doing something else right now. So what I'm doing wrong here is, why the heck am I declaring all these variables just to put them right here? This is functionally equivalent to me just doing this. So some context. Just look at this function. I'm returning an object with these different dice, and up here I'm doing all the calculations here. What could I do to make this? What could I do to make half the lines of code in this? Something to do with this, the let keyword. I'll tell you that. That's your hint. Oh, come on, Oren. You should get this. I believe in you. You got this. If not, I can just tell you if you want to give up. Any idea? Oh, wait, hold on a second. Actually, I might be wrong here, Oren. I might be wrong. Look at what I'm doing here. Actually, so my first thought process was, because I forgot, it's this new ionide thing here that displays this. I thought this was my variable making. Actually, never mind. I need it to be this way, because look, I was thinking before it was just D6, D4, D8, and I could just be declaring these right here. But I can't do that. If I do that, then so I was thinking, oh, I could just put this right here and move it down to this object. But I can't, because I need to know the remainder that I'm getting out of it. So actually, I'm the idiot. So actually, it's perfect. It has to be that way. I'm sorry. I just gaslighted you. Oh man. Okay. Well, we needed that over there. I got that function. Modified dice pool. This guy leverages the stuff from above. We need him. Dice pool to num dice. So this just tells you, hey, in a dice pool, how many dice are in this dice pool. We're going to take that. So this guy is going to go over here. Hey, actually, you could use some monads here. If you can figure it out, we can look at it in a second and make it cleaner. There's probably definitely... Actually, no, hey, whoa. Could I do, you know what I could do? I think I can use fold. No, I can't. Because I need to go from... I don't think fold will work here. I was thinking about, like, the return... Like, what's carried forward in fold would be the remainder of, like, the negative dice. But I can't do that here. That would be wrong. I think that'd be... We couldn't create the object that we want out of this. Oh, my chat disconnected. Uh-oh. My chat disconnected. Okay, my chat is disconnected right now, so I can't see anything. If you guys can still hear me, I can't see what you're typing. So we're gonna go over here. We got this new thing here. We have modified dice pool now. We can go back over to this code and grab this dice pool to num dice. This belongs over in the dice pool module. Man, I keep forgetting which one is which. Can throw this over here. Can I simplify this? This just breaks apart the dice pool. Okay, that looks good. No. My chat says it's completely disconnected here. I'm hoping I'm still streaming. Let me check. Is my stream still live? I'd kind of be sad if I can't chat with people. Did my internet just go out? My internet might have just gone out. I'm not able to look at my live stream right now. Uh-oh. Yikes. I think my stream is down. I think it did. I think my stream went down. No! Oh no. Okay, if my stream went down, I'm gonna close it and try to restart it then. Chat disconnected, please wait while we try to reconnect. Unable to connect. And I don't have access to sharing this. Oren, if you can still hear me, try to type something in the chat. It says my chat right now is disconnected. Okay, I just opened, so I can see your chat now, Oren. I just opened up the live stream on my side panel here. So I can indeed I can see the chat now. Yeah, I can see the chat. We're good. Okay, so we moved over. This guy. Let's go back over here and look. Was there anything else that looked super duper handy that we want to drag over before we get deep into the UI coding? Dice pool modification to integer. That could come in handy. Modify dice pool by dice pool list. That we definitely want that. That is the main. This is probably one of the most important functions we're going to be leveraging for all of our. This one function we use everywhere because he has the logic of how to actually modify a dice pool the right way. Int to d6 dice pool mod. Cool. -1 to 4 to dice pool mod. We don't need this yet because we're not going to. This is back when I did -1 to 4 and 0 to 4. Create dice pool mod. Yeah, we want all this. Stuff back over here. What were you saying before, Oren? You might be able to use some monads here. In Haskell, tuple has monad defined from them. I don't think F# has by default. In Haskell, you could use as well state monad. I do not know the wizardry you speak of, but I wish to learn the black magic. So, we're moving over some more logic. And again, this is supposed to be going over F# safe stack development in terms of all these functions and stuff. That's not really the purpose of this, is like going over the explicit syntax of F#. If people want to, though, I can go over all of the stuff, but honestly, I'm just going to move over stuff right now. Let's get to the good part, because I'm sure everyone here can write, you know, moving stuff between types and whatever. Okay, these these ones, we don't really need these right now because we're going to have to redefine those. And actually, these should actually be over in their own respective, so actually, a dice pool modification is more fundamental than the type of the stat. So like if a stat can go from -1 to 4, I feel like. So actually these should be over in their own yeah, these really should be over in their own folders. Okay, we'll look at that in a minute then. Create dice pool mod. Who uses this? Parse dice pool string. Ah, this is my parsing stuff. I don't really like this stuff. I want to rewrite this part. Parse dice pool string, parse dice pool mod string, parse dice pool mod option string, dice pool mod to string. So actually, we're going to move this stuff over. I'm going to end up rewriting probably a bunch of this parsing logic using parser combinators. Cool, we moved over a ridiculous amount of logic. And we're just going to close all of these. I'm gonna move this dice pool mod to string. I'm gonna move this guy higher up, because I'm probably gonna end up removing a bunch of this this parsing logic here. So we're just gonna separate the parsing logic down here at the bottom. And heck, we'll even put in like a little function here saying parsing logic. Oops, wrong programming language. Going to the Y. You're going to the Y, Warren? I actually might come with you. Yeah, actually, you know what? I will. I'll call a stream. I'm still a little sick, but I should go work out. It's better to do. So we're gonna end the stream there. Yeah, here, Oren. I'm gonna end the stream and I'll probably go with you, and then I'll probably start the stream up once I get back. Alrighty. Well, I know it was a short stream, but and we just moved stuff over. I'm just trying to document this as I go through it. So I will catch you guys on the next live stream, and yeah, I'll see you guys over there.